Welcome to iCCaRE for Black Men Consortium Cancer Research Link. I am Dr. Folakemi Odedina, Professor of Oncology at Mayo Clinic and one of the consortium directors for the iCCaRE Consortium. The Cancer Research Link was created to share research affecting minority and underserved communities directly with the public. Funded by the Department of Defense, the iCCaRE Consortium is leading this effort to give you information on prostate cancer scientific discoveries, as well as resources that are relevant to your community. Today, I am here with my fellow directors of the iCCaRE Consortium, Mr. Arnold Merriweather, as well as Dr. Che Ngufor. And they are going to be introducing you to the consortium. Starting with Mr. Merriweather, please introduce yourself to our viewers.
Hello, everyone. A.J. Merriweather, community MPI, an advocate, and a prostate survivor. I'm glad to be a part of this interview.
Thank you, Mr. Merriweather. Dr. Ngufor, please introduce yourself to everyone.
Thank you. Hello, everybody. I'm Che Ngufor, Associate Professor of Biomedical Informatics and an AI scientist at Mayo Clinic, and specifically within the Kern Center. At Mayo Clinic, I do a lot of machine learning, artificial intelligence applications. Some of them are currently in practice. And within iCCaRE, I'm one of the MPIs. And as we were going to say today, I'll be discussing some of the projects that are involved in iCCaRE. I'm basically involved in Pilot Project 1 and Pilot Project 3. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Ngufor. So we all know the depressing statistics about prostate cancer. We know that it affects Black men the most in the United States and globally. I personally have spent about 30 years researching what we can do to address this problem. And recently, the American Cancer Society actually came up with current statistics. And from the American Cancer Society, prostate cancer incidence rate has been increasing by 3% every year since 2014 through 2019. What this actually translates to is that about 99,000 more cases every year, with about half the cases at advanced stage. The patterns of prostate cancer is showing a shift towards higher grade and stage at prostate cancer diagnosis. This is not what we want to hear, but this is the latest data. So Mr. Merriweather, as a prostate cancer survivor, how do you feel about this new statistics? And maybe you can start by telling us about your journey and telling us how you feel about this news about prostate cancer incidence statistics.
Thank you. My journey started in 2010 to the present. I'm in remission. One of the things about prostate cancer is, when you first get diagnosed, you really don't know too much about it. And I had the pleasure over the years to be tutored and learn from different people in community programs about prostate cancer. As I heard about this new status coming out, I'm very concerned, meaning for 20 years, it was on the decline. And over the last few years, it's been going up by 3%, and that it's starting to be a little bit more harder to detect and to treat. And being that we are losing so many men from not participating and not getting checked in early diagnosis, this is alarming. Just as even 3%, that's 3% more than it was the year before, 3% more than that year. And what bothers me is we're having so much of a hard time right now getting the word out about early detection and about all the different programs that's out there. And with another stage of it's harder to treat. It's hard, more men are getting diagnosed later with more stage 4 or whatever. That is a concern. As an advocate and a survivor, it makes you wonder what more can we do to get the message out? And that's why we're here today to actually address that issue.
Thank you, Mr. Merriweather. So turning to you, Dr. Ngufor, can you provide some thoughts on why the iCCaRE Consortium is so important in addressing this uptick that we are seeing in prostate cancer incidence?
Sure, thank you. And again, let me just say, I see Mr. Merriweather said the right points. This uptick, as you mentioned, rightfully mentioned and highlighted, it really means, the uptick is faster in Black men compared to other racial groups. The 5 projects of iCCaRE, as we are going to see today, and its associated calls and services, to me, I see it's like some sort of an ecosystem for advancing health equity and reduce disparity of prostate cancer, improve treatment and survivorship, and also improve patient outcome as well and their quality of life. So as we are working at iCCaRE, again, I kind of see it really like a hub, that hub that is going to improve patient quality of life, outcomes, and the overall prostate cancer health of the patient. So all what Mr. Merriweather really just mentioned is really what is embedded within iCCaRE. We want that continuum to kind of improve that continuum of care from early detection to living with prostate cancer and overall how the system all fit in together. Now, we were very, very gracious to receive this award from the DOD Prostate Cancer Research Program, or the Heroic Award, and also it's funded in part by Mayo Clinic. So we are really appreciative of all the various support that are coming in to push this project forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Ngufor. It sounds like the iCCaRE consortium is really important and very timely to address the disproportionate burden of prostate cancer in Black men. Can you provide us a little bit of more background on the iCCaRE consortium? And I think you already mentioned how the center is funded, but give us a little bit of more background about the iCCaRE consortium.
Absolutely. I mean, I think that's really what we're here today. I'll just start by, first of all, highlighting what is our overall goal. Now, the overall goal of iCCaRE is really to develop, sort of feasible, innovative, and sustainable intervention that can help improve first the experience of prostate cancer diagnosis. Men go through the process of diagnosis. We've heard a lot, again, based on research. We want to improve that experience, especially for Black men, and then also improve prostate cancer treatments and living with prostate cancer. Overall, again, to reduce that prostate cancer disparities that is prevalent in the Black community. Then to be able to do that overall goal, we also need to say, wow, we have different methods, different unique approaches that we are going to implement and are actually implementing to address that goal. We'll be employing artificial intelligence, machine learning techniques, disruptive technologies like virtual, augmented, and mixed reality. We'll be employing the science of survivorship, prostate cancer survivorship. We'll be employing biological factors, genetics, translational, and global research. So these are really the unique things that methodologies I'll be employing in iCCaRE, as well as capitalizing on our community scientists, which is really, really critical in iCCaRE. Now, why are we doing that, or why do we just put all these things together? It's really based on science, and as I mentioned, our community, investigators, those who are living with prostate cancer, telling their stories. So based on past research, we really believe that if we can address, social determinant of health factors, improve prostate cancer related risk factors, the factors that have been published, some of them that are not well known, especially in the Black community, and as well as account for biological or genetic factors, we really can improve quality of life and outcomes for Black prostate cancer patients. So this is really, the overall, the background, the backbone that actually build our iCCaRE.
Thank you, Dr. Ngufor. So, Mr. Merriweather, I'm going to turn to you. It's not oftentimes that you really have a representation of a community member, a prostate cancer survivor, who is also a principal investigator of a huge consortium such as this. So, from your perspective, why is it important to have the iCCaRE consortium?
Thank you for that wonderful question. It's so important because as Dr. Che said, he called out a lot of stuff, but when you need someone on the ground to translate how does these different projects affect us, we got 1 through 5 projects. And the best way to sum it is iCCaRE has a lot of hands that's helping us develop a program that we can reach out to a variety of demographic, a variety of our brothers that's from Latin America, Africa, Europe. So the bottom line is iCCaRE is one of many tools in the toolbox, but it has a lot of legs in that toolbox. And what it's going to allow us when we partner with, for instance, City of Hope, the College of Georgia, Black Men, 100 Black Men, or Black Male Prostate Cancer. What does that mean when the person on the street say, well, what does that do for me? One, it allows the doctors to do their part, the scientists, the researchers, but most of all, by having a survivor and someone who's been there, you can pretty much have a seat at the table. You can actually say, okay, how does this program going to work for me? Not how is it going to work for the community. When you got prostate cancer, you kind of want to know, how does it work for me? As Dr. Che just said, he hit one point that the audience probably didn't even hear when he talked about the viral video. What does that mean? That means we're going to use technology, something that most of us stay away from, but he's made it so innovative and so unique that we can take that ground level approach to say, hey, here's somebody in an Android that looks like you, talk like you, but makes you comfortable, you know, in your own skin. Well, I'm in my bedroom and I'm watching this. If we had a scientific data, someone talking out, you know, someone maybe talking above our pay grade, but Dr. Che got it way, okay, if you don't understand this part, go over here to this video, and this will help, you know, you can put in some input or talk about, hey, can you give me some more about early detection? Or why is it so important for me to use this equipment? What he's doing and what you are doing, Doc, is giving us a variety of tools to help reach out different components, different programs, and different nationalities that, you know, we all don't learn the same way. So when we in this toolbox, we got to have a little bit of everything to be able to get that message out. And I think by iCCaRE has did wonderful things just kicking off in 6 months. And as we begin to explore the new challenges, we also got to learn how these new technologies and these new innovative programs or these new findings, when you do the findings, we're preaching to the choir. But when we go back to the grassroots, we also got to be able to translate that information to where it's feasible and it's reasonable and it's understandable. That's what iCCaRE means to me.
Thank you so much, Mr. Merriweather. Feasible, reasonable, and understanding. You know, that and understandable. That is really key to really taking the science back to the community so that people can use it to really support their health impact. So, as Mr. Merriweather mentioned, this is a toolbox. I love that analogy. And there's so many parts, and there's so many disciplines, and there's so many people, and there's so many countries, so many backgrounds, and that is really what is making the iCCaRE work. So, Dr. Ngufor, can you tell us about the projects? I know that we're still going to have segments focused on each of the projects, but just give us the highlights of the 5 projects that are involved in the iCCaRE consortium. Oh,
sure. Thank you. And I totally agree with Mr. Merriweather. He said it so nicely, you know. But as also mentioned, iCCaRE is like a hub, and a hub of all these tools and services. And yet, how do we put them all together? So we'll describe the various different pieces. We have 5 projects, as Mr. Merriweather mentioned. We put these 5 projects so that they really are working together, helping each other. I think the team has done a phenomenal job in doing this. So let me go through the projects. I'll just highlight, the name of the project and maybe some few description. So we have the pilot project 1. Pilot project 1 is really looking at what is going on at the point of prostate cancer diagnosis. So we're going to develop, a virtual intelligent robot assistant that we'll call VIRA, that will really help men navigate some social determinant of health and psychological factors at the point of prostate cancer diagnosis. Now, pilot project 2 now actually assesses the impact of patient-centered home care. So looking at what is going on when a patient, when you have now removing the provider from that part and then taking that care back home. Now, as we mentioned, we are looking at the continuum of care. Pilot project 3 takes that viral that we are developing and now extend it to living with prostate cancer. So we are going to now extend Vera to actually accommodate men that are living with prostate cancer. How do they do their treatment? How do they navigate symptoms and decisional regrets of some treatment? So that is for pilot project 3. Pilot project 4 takes a different dimension. We have been talking about Black men, but there's some other specific group of Black men that research has not really targeted, and they also have prostate cancer survival. So pilot project 4 will assess and address social determinant of health factors and needs for sub-Saharan African immigrants with prostate cancer in the United States. So I believe that's a real own dimension that iCCaRE is really going to shine the light on. Finally, sort of by its own, but not by its own, is pilot project 5. Pilot project 5 is now taking back to the biology, to the genetics. We want to explore the genetic factors that contribute to poor mental health. Remember, pilot project 1, pilot project 3 addresses mental health, but now we want to go back to the genetics, and there are so many reasons why we want to do that. And when we have that segment of the individual project, it will become clear why we need to address the genetic factors as well. So that's the rundown of all the 5 projects in iCCaRE. And again, I'm excited to see when the segment where we actually describe each one of these projects to really make iCCaRE the hub of ending disparity in prostate cancer for Black men. Thank you.
Really awesome, really awesome. I'm so excited about all the projects. But one of the things that I'm actually more excited about, if that is possible, is that each of these projects have both a scientific lead and a prostate cancer survival lead. And Mr. Merriweather, break it down for us as you usually do. Why is this important? Why is it important that each of the research that we do includes a prostate cancer survivor to also serve as a principal investigator or as a co-lead for the research?
Dr. Odedina, the reason why it's so important is you want to be able to disseminate that information out through the communities. And if you have a survivor who has been through it, they can actually give us input on their experience, how it affects them as we mold these different projects, as Dr. Che say, as you mold project 1, the video hypothetical. How is that going to work? One of the things what we're trying to, I feel that's going to be successful is with each project, you have a survivor. That person can also take that information when we need, if we had clinical trials on a part of these 1 through 5, and we needed some participants. By having someone at the table that knows what you're talking about for as that information, they can go out in the community of their neighborhoods and say, hey, here's a pilot program that's going on, and we want survivors to participate. And then you can, even though we didn't touch on this, Dr. Odedina, say you had a drug in this phase that was coming out, and you want to say, we need some participants. You go back to the old saying, you taking this drug, wouldn't you like for this drug to be based on your DNA and not someone else? Well, if you take project 1 through 5, wouldn't you want this particular project based on your demographic and not theirs? Why is that so important? Because as we move forward from 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, we're going to need input. You just can't have all the scientists, all the research, all the whatever the names they got. You can't have that. You got to be able to have some input. And I'm hoping that as we go in each stage and each advocate or each survivor take an active role, because that's the only way we can translate the information. You can get all the research and all the paperwork done, but if you don't have nobody to go back into the community, meaning the community hubs, community centers, community health programs, to be able to say, here's some programs coming out. One of the things with the viral video, the only thing I'm concerned about on that, and I shared that with Dr. Che, is we also got to have another way if people don't have access to that type of technology. That's why 1 through 5 have a backup. If you don't use 1 for the video, we got a backup on how we can still get that information to you, maybe not in the technical way, but in a practical way. So that's why it's so important with all these different components, and being that we don't have everybody in one city. We have them around the world working on different projects. As Dr. Chi said, the genetics, the genome, that's over there in Nigeria. They're working on different components over there that's going to affect us over here. And what we're working on over here is going to affect them. So I would tell the audience that do not get caught in the minutia when you think it's too technical and you don't understand, because it's always components that we have to reach out for. As I guess you would say DOD, we have to have it written a certain way. But when it comes down to translating it to how it works in my neighborhood, I can go back and take this little pamphlet and say, okay, this little part right here, that's affect us. Now this is the part I want you to focus on. Don't worry about all that other stuff you don't understand. But it's so exciting that this program has so many arms. It's not even enough arms. That's the problem. It's not enough arms, but it's enough to get the message started.
Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Merriweather. This is great. So we have now talked about, the iCCaRE. We've talked about why the iCCaRE exists. We've talked about some of those projects. This is the first segment. We are going to take a pause, and then we are going to come back to now talk about, apart from the projects, Mr. Merriweather, as well as Dr. Ngufor mentioned, it has a lot of hubs. Hubs, in addition to the project, it has some other things that is part of the hub. So we are going to end the segment right now. Thank you for joining us, and we are going to come back for the second segment and talk more about the cause and what are the things that are supporting the cause. Thank you so much, Mr. Merriweather and Dr. Ngufor. We will be right back. Thank you.